30 people watch her unclip the badge, and not one of them looks up. Naomi Brooks is a Black investigative journalist who audits charity money meant for other people's chemotherapy. $40 million are gone from a health fund for the uninsured. Her editor calls her sources' documents forgeries and takes her badge. Her body gives out in the lobby, room 1412. Pale blue gown, IV taped to her left hand. One burner phone, one contact. She signs blue, he signs north. She types, "I'm giving up today." The reply, "I forbid it." Look at the door. Behind the corridor glass, a man in black lifts his phone. A Korean dragon runs down the left side of his neck. Park Ji-hoon, the quiet one, chairman of the Guryong Group. He knows her face. She has 41 photographs of him in her own case file, and what he carries up to room 1412 in a leather archive box. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Naomi Brooks laid the 41st photograph on the conference table and turned it to face Victor Hale. 9 days, she said. Then you can print it or burn it. Hale kept his hands flat on the glass. Behind him, the metro desk had gone quiet, in the way a newsroom goes quiet when it is pretending to work. 30 people, 40 keyboards, nobody typing. Sit down, Naomi. I'll stand. She wore the navy suit with the sharp shoulders, ivory silk under the jacket, small gold hoops, the thin-strapped watch she checked out of habit instead of nerves. The oxblood bag sat by her chair with the case file inside it. 9 days was not a negotiation. 9 days was the closing of the Raven Bridge Health Fund, and after that, the money would be a memory with no address. $40 million, she said. Out of a fund that pays for insulin and chemo co-pays for people with no coverage. Out through 4 shells in Fort Lee. I have the wire dates. I have the account names. Hale took his fountain pen out of his inside pocket. Lacquered, heavy, a gift from a publisher who had been dead 6 years. He uncapped it slowly. She had watched him do that in 9 editorial meetings, and she knew exactly what it meant. He was buying seconds. Legal ran your source packet through a forensic vendor, he said. When? Tuesday. Naomi set her palm on the stack of photographs and left it there. The packet came in on Friday. I logged it Friday at 4. That's right. So you had it 4 days before you told me it existed anywhere but my desk. Hale slid a manila envelope out from under his legal pad. Ordinary. Brass clasp, one corner softened where somebody's thumb had worried it. Her name was on the front in her source's block capitals, and beneath the capitals, in red vendor ink, a stamped code she had never seen. He drew out 2 pages and laid them side by side, and he turned them toward her, the way she had turned the photographs toward him. Signature block, he said. 2 documents, 4 years apart. She looked. She had looked at these pages 90 times. They're identical, Hale said. Not similar. Identical. Same ink break at the second stroke. Same lift. A human hand cannot do that twice. Naomi bent closer. The room did not move. The loop of the R broke in the same place on both sheets. The same hairline gap. She had read that signature as authentic because the man who signed it had signed everything that way for 20 years, and because she had wanted the pledge letter to be real, and because at 3 in the morning, with a fever of 101, wanting and knowing had started to wear the same coat. And the dates, Hale said. Say it. 3 transfer confirmations dated on a Sunday. Your clearing bank in New Jersey doesn't post on Sundays. It didn't in 2019, and it doesn't now. She straightened. Her left knuckle had gone white against the tabletop, and she moved the hand into her pocket before anyone could price it. "Then my source is compromised," she said. "That's a story too. Somebody built forgeries good enough to run at a national desk. Somebody spent money doing it. Ask why." "Somebody spent money," Hale agreed. "And you spent 11 weeks. Give me the vendor report. It's legals. Give me the envelope." Hale capped the pen. "The envelope is evidence in an internal review." Through the glass, she found Daniel Reed at his desk. Gray zip jacket, sleeves of the Oxford rolled to the elbow, earbuds looped around his neck, both hands resting on his keyboard. He had built her the transfer timeline. He had sat with her until 1 a.m. on a Sunday chasing a routing number, and he had said out loud, twice, that the pledge letter smelled clean. He looked up, their eyes held for maybe a second and a half. Then he looked at his screen, and he scrolled. "Badge," Hale said. Naomi turned back to him. "Say the rest of it." "The story is killed. Your access is suspended pending the review. Your severance is on hold until the review closes." He put out his hand, palm up, the heavy hand of a man who had never once had to carry his own box. "Badge, Naomi." She unclipped it. The lanyard caught in her collar, and she had to work it free with 2 fingers, and that took 4 seconds, and those 4 seconds were the worst part of the morning, because 30 people watched her do it. She set the badge in his hand, face up. "You moved my publication date," she said. Hale's expression stayed level. The desk moved it. "You moved it, 9 days forward, 3 weeks ago." She picked up her bag. "Nobody asked me if the reporting was ready. You asked me if the art was ready." "We're finished here." "Not remotely." She pulled the strap of the bag onto her shoulder. "What happens to the file?" "Legal keeps it." "And the desk?" Hale turned the pen over once in his fingers. "There'll be a note to readers. It'll be short." Naomi stopped with her hand on the back of the chair. A note to readers about a story that never ran. About a reporting standard. "Say my name in it, and I'll answer it." "Answer it with what?" Hale said. "You have photocopies and a fever." That landed. She let it land, and she made her face do nothing at all with it, and she was aware of the glass wall, and the 30 people behind it, and the fact that every one of them would describe this later. "You had that sentence ready," she said. "You've been carrying it since Friday." She walked out through the glass door and across the floor, and the floor was silent, and every screen on the Metro desk was showing something urgent. A copy editor pushed a cardboard box toward her with his foot, without looking up from his monitor. That was the whole eulogy. She packed it standing. 2 notebooks, a cracked coffee mug with a state seal on it, the pill organizer, Sunday through Saturday, 4 of the 7 doors already open, a folder of printouts, her photocopies of the source packet. She had made 3 sets the day it arrived because she made 3 sets of everything, and Hale had the original, and Legal had 1, and the 3rd was in her hands now, in a plain sleeve, going into the box under the notebooks. The 41 photographs stayed on the conference table. She left them there deliberately. Somebody would have to gather them, and Park Ji-hoon's face was in every single frame. Nobody said goodbye. One intern half rose from her chair, and someone at the next desk touched the intern's arm, and the intern sat down. In the corridor by the elevator bank, she balanced the box on the radiator cover and called her source. 11 weeks of calls to that number. A man's voice, careful Jersey vowels, always from a different place. He had never given her a last name, and she had never pushed for one, because sources who are afraid stop talking when you push. The line rang once and produced 3 descending tones. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." She tried it again with the area code typed by hand. Same 3 tones. She stood there, with the phone against her ear, listening to a recording tell her the same thing a second time, and the arithmetic assembled itself while she listened. The envelope arrives Friday, the vendor gets it Tuesday, the number dies before Thursday. Naomi picked up the box and got into the elevator and set it on the floor and put her back against the wall. 22 floors. At floor 16, her hands began to buzz, pins in the fingertips, the specific fizzing heat she had learned to translate. She flexed them once and made a fist and held it and let it go. At floor 9, she reached into the inside zip pocket of the bag and took out the burner. It was a cheap flip model, black plastic, scuffed at the hinge, and it had exactly one contact in it. The contact was saved as North. She had bought it 19 weeks earlier for a source who never called, and 11 weeks ago at 3:14 in the morning, from an infusion chair with a hot needle in her arm, a wrong number had lit the screen with 2 words. Still awake? She had answered because it was 3 in the morning and because a stranger costs nothing. They had made rules in the first hour. No names, no cities, no photographs, no jobs. He wrote in short, flat lines that landed like decisions. She wrote longer than she meant to, always. He never once asked her a question she could refuse, and she had never once caught him lying, which was its own kind of strange. She signed as Blue. In the elevator, she typed with her thumb. They killed it, all of it. The reply came before floor 5. Who is they? Doesn't matter, it's done. It matters. She watched the numbers drop. 4, 3. I put 11 weeks into a thing that was fake. I couldn't see it, that's the part. The car settled, the doors opened onto the lobby, marble and turnstiles, and a security desk with 2 guards who both knew her name and neither of whom looked at her. Blue. I'm here. You were given a false document. That is not the same as being wrong. She stopped in the middle of the lobby with the box against her hip and read it twice. Then she typed, okay, and put the phone in her jacket pocket, and that was when the floor moved. Not much, a 1/4 inch, the way a boat moves. Her right knee took the box's weight, and the knee did not take it. Heat came up the back of her neck and spread across her cheekbones like a hand laid flat. Her vision narrowed at the edges into a gray ring. She got 2 more steps toward the turnstiles. The box went first. Notebooks slid. The mug cracked its handle off against the marble. The pill organizer skated and popped 2 of its little doors, and orange and white tablets went across the polished stone in a long spray. Naomi went down on her left hip, and her shoulder took the wall. She stayed conscious. That was the humiliation of it. She stayed entirely conscious. She heard a woman say, "Oh my God." She heard a guard's radio. She heard a phone camera's fake shutter sound from somewhere behind her, and she could not stand up. Her hands were open on the marble. She watched them and told them to close, and they took their time about it. A guard crouched by her head. Ma'am, can you hear me? Yes. You want water? I want you to pick up the blue folder before somebody steps on it. The guard picked it up. The ambulance took 11 minutes. She gave the medics her diagnosis in the shorthand she had learned to give it in, and her medication list, and the name of her attending, and they wrote it all down and asked her again anyway, and she answered again, because arguing with a paramedic is a luxury for people who can walk. They put her on the stretcher. Somebody had gathered the box. Somebody had put the notebooks back into it wrong. Anyone we can call? The medic asked. Tara Ellis, Naomi said. She's a nurse at Hudson Crown, immunology floor. That where you want to go? That's where I go. They ran her through the lobby doors and past 200 people on the sidewalk and folded the stretcher into the back of the bus, and through the rear windows, she watched the building she had worked in for 6 years get smaller and then get replaced by other buildings. Her jacket pocket buzzed against her ribs. Once. She could not reach it with the blood pressure cuff on her arm. The emergency department at Hudson Crown took her at 11:52. Bloods, fluids, a cardiac monitor she did not need, a resident who called her "Sweetheart," until she gave him a look that stopped it. By 2 in the afternoon, her white count had come back, and a decision had been made somewhere above her, and by 3:40, she was riding a gurney into an elevator with a transport tech who talked about the Knicks the entire way up. 14th floor, immunology. Tara Ellis was at the nurse's station with her arms crossed and her braids up in the low bun she wore on shift, teal scrubs, white sleeves at the wrist, a pen light in her chest pocket, and a badge on a beaded lanyard. She uncrossed her arms when the gurney turned the corner. "Don't," Naomi said. "I haven't said anything. Your face said the whole paragraph." Tara walked alongside, one hand on the rail. 1412. Corner. It's the good one. It's the one with the glass. It's the one where I can see you from the desk. Tara pushed the door with her hip. That's the point of it. Room 1412 had a window onto the East River and a second window onto the corridor. A wide observation panel of glass with a vertical blind on a track, the kind that lets a charge nurse look in without opening a door. Naomi noted the blind and its pull cord, because she noted things, and because 11 weeks of forgeries had not fixed the part of her that noted things. They moved her over. Gown, blanket, IV taped to the back of her left hand, ID band snugged onto her wrist. Tara set the cardboard box on the windowsill. "Your building sent this up. There's a mug in there, with no handle." "I know. Want me to throw it out?" "No." Tara stood at the foot of the bed with the clipboard against her thigh, and did not fill the silence for a while. Out in the corridor, a med cart rolled past, and a phone rang twice at the station and stopped. "How bad at work?" Tara said finally. He took the badge in front of everybody. "Hail. Hail. And Daniel?" Naomi looked at the ceiling tile above her, at a water stain shaped like Delaware. Daniel scrolled. Tora wrote something on the clipboard that was almost certainly not medical. "Dr. Ramirez has you on the board for the morning. She'll want to talk about the next cycle. I know what she'll want. I'm telling you so it's not a surprise. Nothing about this is a surprise, Tara. I've been running a fever since February, and filing anyway. This is arithmetic." Tara came around the side of the bed and straightened the blanket that did not need straightening, which was how she touched people she loved, without making a production of it. "Rules," she said. "You know them. No laptop after 10. No laptop at all today, and nobody comes in this room without going through me." "Who's coming?" "Nobody," Tara said. "That's how I intend to keep it." She left. The door eased shut on its damper. Through the corridor glass, Naomi watched her cross to the station and say something to another nurse, and the other nurse looked toward 1412, and Tara said something else, and the other nurse stopped looking. Naomi lay still and let the room settle around her. Then she pushed herself up on her elbows, dragged the tray table across the bed, and reached into the box with her right hand, the one without the line taped to it, until she found the plain sleeve under the notebooks, her photocopies, all of it. The pledge letter with its impossible signature, the 3 Sunday confirmations, the wire ladder through Fort Lee, and 41 photographs of a man in a black overcoat getting out of cars in 3 cities. She spread 4 pages in front of her and studied the signature block until her eyes stopped focusing. Not similar, identical. Correct. Which meant a machine had done it. Which meant somebody had chosen those 2 documents, out of thousands, and chosen the dates, and chosen her. She turned the top sheet over and wrote on the back of it, in a hand that shook and then steadied. Who benefits from me being wrong? Her jacket was folded on the chair. She got the burner out of the pocket on the second try. 4 unread. Blue. Answer. Blue. It has been 3 hours. And then, sent 40 minutes ago. Tell me you are all right. Naomi held the phone above her face with both hands. Outside the corridor glass, a visitor walked past carrying flowers to some other room, and the light in 1412 went gold and then gray as the afternoon gave up. She typed, I'm all right. She deleted it. She typed, I'm in a hospital, Manhattan. Her thumb sat on the send key. She deleted that too, because rules were rules, and because the last thing left standing in her life was a thread with a stranger who had asked her for nothing, ever. Finally she wrote, I'm still here. Sent. The reply came in 9 seconds, and it was not a question. Where? She set the phone face down on the tray table, on top of the forged signature, and watched the plastic glow through the paper twice more before it went dark. Dr. Elena Ramirez knocked twice on Friday morning and came in before Naomi finished turning the photocopies face down. Don't hide them on my account, Ramirez said. I've read worse things on that tray table. They're not medical. I noticed the man in the overcoat. Ramirez pulled the chair to the bedside with her foot and sat, tablet against her ribs. Your white count came up overnight. Not enough. Define enough. Enough that I'd let you walk to the elevator. Naomi measured the doorway with her eyes. 9 steps, maybe 11. She had counted them the night before while the corridor lights were down, the way she used to count exits in parking garages. Then tell me the number, she said. Ramirez turned the tablet around and let her look. Naomi read the column twice. She had learned to read her own labs like a ledger, bottom line first, then backward through the entries that made it. That's lower than March. Considerably. And the cycle. Tuesday, Ramirez said, which is why I'm here on a Friday instead of Monday. Tara Ellis appeared in the frame of the door with 2 cups of ice chips and stayed there, one shoulder against the jamb. She had been holding that spot since 7. What does Tuesday cost? Naomi said, with no employer plan. Ramirez set the tablet down. That was the answer, and both of them knew it, and Naomi's hand went flat on the blanket and stayed flat. Financial counseling comes up on Monday, Ramirez said. There are programs. There are always programs. Name one. I'll bring you 4. Bring them, Naomi said. Then we'll talk about Tuesday. Ramirez stood, and on her way out, she did something Naomi respected her for. She stopped. You're doing arithmetic instead of medicine, she said. I've seen where that ends. So has your friend. Tara handed over the ice chips without a word and went to answer a call bell down the hall. By noon, Naomi had the tray table arranged like a desk. She worked the phone in the room, not the burner. The paper's legal line took her number and never called back. The vendor, whose red stamp sat on the manila envelope, had a receptionist who said the word. Policy. 4 times in 90 seconds. She asked for the vendor's records custodian by name. She had the name from a court filing in 2021, and the receptionist put her on hold, and then the line was a dial tone. She wrote the time of the disconnect on the back of a photocopy. She had 6 such notations by the end of the afternoon. At 4, she called Daniel Reed. It rang out. She called again. On the 3rd attempt, it picked up and there was newsroom in the background. The chatter, the shuffle of the 4 o'clock, somebody's laugh, and then the sound got smaller, a stairwell probably, and Daniel breathed once. Not from this phone, he said. I only need one thing. Naomi. Did legal send it out on Tuesday, or did Hale send it out on Tuesday? The stairwell hummed. Somewhere above him, a door banged. I'll call you, Daniel said, and hung up, and did not call. Saturday, she slept until 11, which had never happened in her adult life, and woke with her fingers curled and the IV site aching. Tara changed the dressing and talked about nothing: her sister's kitchen renovation, a resident who'd fainted in a hallway, and Naomi let her, because Tara was working, and because the talking meant the numbers were bad enough that Tara had decided not to mention them. You've got the box on the windowsill still, Tara said. I'm using it. You're sleeping 4 hours. I'm sleeping 11. You just saw me. That's not sleeping. Tara snapped the glove off. That's your body taking what you won't give it. She got the burner out that night when the floor went quiet. 9 messages, spread across 2 days, none of them repeating themselves. Where? You do not have to say the city. Blue, are you being cared for? Answer that one. It is not a name and it is not a place. Naomi typed, yes. By whom? By people who are good at it. 20 seconds. Then? Good. She waited for the next question, and it never came, and that absence sat in her chest longer than any of the questions had. 11 weeks, and he had never once asked her what she did for a living. She had never asked him either. The whole architecture of the thing stood on that single refusal, and it was the only structure left in her life, still holding its own weight. She typed, I lost my job on Thursday. I know. You told me they killed it. I didn't tell you they killed me with it. The reply took a full minute. Then they were careless. That is a different problem from being right or wrong. She read it 4 times, and then she put the phone under the pillow instead of on the tray table, which was a decision, though she would not have called it one. Sunday, the email came at 6:12 in the morning. The room phone had not rung, nobody had knocked, and the light through the East River window was still the colorless kind. Naomi opened her personal account on the room's mounted tablet, 6 years of muscle memory, every morning of them, and the subject line sat at the top in bold. A note to readers. Sent by the Standard's editor. Copied to the executive editor. Copied to 11 addresses she recognized, and 4 she did not. She read the whole thing twice before she moved. It ran 4 paragraphs. It said the paper had reviewed materials underlying a planned investigation into the Raven Bridge Health Fund. It said the materials were determined to contain fabricated documents. It said the reporting had not met the paper's standards. It named her in the second sentence and again in the third. The source went unnamed. So did the vendor. It used the word regret. Once, and the regret belonged to the institution, not to any person inside it. The final line said the note would run in Sunday's edition and remain appended to her archive. Her archive, 6 years of it, 400 and some bylines, with a paragraph stapled to the front door of every single one. Naomi set the tablet down on her knees and looked at the ceiling tile above the bed. There were 12 perforations across and 12 down in each tile, and she counted 1 full row before her jaw unlocked. At the bottom of the message, below the signature block, somebody in HR had added a line about the severance review remaining open pending the conclusion of internal proceedings. She read that line last. It was the one that made her hands go cold. There was a second email under it, sent 4 minutes later from Victor Hale's account, 3 words long. Nothing personal, Naomi. She deleted his and kept theirs. Ramirez came at 10 with a folder under her arm and Tara behind her, and Naomi knew from the way the folder was carried, flat, both hands, held out slightly, what was inside it. 4 programs, Ramirez said. 2 you qualify for today. 1 requires proof of termination, which you have. 1 takes 90 days. And the form. Ramirez laid the consent on the tray table and turned it so the signature line faced Naomi. She put a pen beside it. Both stayed exactly where she left them. Tuesday at 7, Ramirez said. You'll be back in this bed by 2. Naomi looked at the line. She had signed it 11 times. She knew the paragraph about infusion reactions by heart, the one about immunosuppression, the one about the registry. She knew where the initials went in the margin. Her hand had been steadier the first time than it was now, and that was not a thought she chose to have. No, she said. Tara came off the doorframe. Say that again? I'm not signing it today. Naomi. Today, Naomi said. I said today. Ramirez stayed still, and there was something professional in the stillness of a woman who had watched this happen in other rooms and had learned not to fill the silence with reasons. Tell me why, she said. Because I'd be signing a bill I can't pay to keep a body I can't use. Naomi's voice came out level. I can't work. I can't call sources from a room where a nurse writes my temperature on a whiteboard. On Tuesday morning, your 7 o'clock costs more than my rent, and by Tuesday afternoon, I'm the woman in the note to readers, and the note runs today. What note? Tara said. It's in my inbox. Tara took 2 steps and read the screen over her shoulder, and Naomi watched her friend's face do a thing she had seen it do exactly once before, at a funeral, in 2019. They put your name in it, Tara said. Twice. They put your name in it. Tara. 6 years. Tara's hand closed on the bed rail. 6 years and they. Tara. Naomi tipped her chin at Ramirez, who was still waiting, and Tara stopped, because there was a doctor in the room and rules about rooms. Ramirez capped her pen. The form stays here, she said. I'm not taking it back to the station. It sits on that table where you can see it, and you sign it when you decide. And if you decide by 4, I keep your Tuesday slot. After 4, I give it to somebody else. And the next one I can offer you is the following Monday. That's a deadline. That's a schedule, Ramirez said. You've met deadlines before. At the door, she stopped again. Same as Friday. One correction. You said you can't use the body. It's the only one available. Then she was gone. Tara stayed. She squared the water pitcher, straightened the blanket at the corner, adjusted nothing that needed adjusting, and finally sat down on the edge of the chair Ramirez had left, angled toward the bed. Say what you're going to say, Naomi said. I'm not going to fight you. You've been fighting me since Thursday. I've been holding the door. Tara said, there's a difference, and you know the difference, and you're being ugly because ugly is easier than scared. Naomi looked at the window. I'm on until 7, Tara said, standing. The form's right there. It doesn't get better with air. The room went quiet in the particular way hospital rooms go quiet on a Sunday. Carts down the corridor, a television through the wall, a woman 2 doors up calling a name that wasn't answered. Naomi lay with the consent form 18 inches from her hand for 2 hours and 20 minutes. At 12:40, she reached under the pillow. She typed it in one go, no drafts, no deletions. I'm giving up today. Sent. The burner rang 11 seconds later. She looked at the screen, north, and a number she had never dialed in 11 weeks, and let it ring. 4 rings. 5. It stopped, and the silence lasted 6 seconds, and then it rang again, longer this time, and she pressed the side button with her thumb and sent it down. The message came up immediately. Do not do that again. I'm tired. I know what tired is. That is not what you wrote. Naomi's thumb hovered. On the tray table, the consent form lay under the fluorescent panel, with the signature line facing the ceiling. They ran it with my name. She typed. I can't buy Tuesday. I'm out of moves. Where are you? Rules. Break 1. You break 1. 12 seconds. I have never once lied to you. He wrote. Ask me anything at the end of this, and I will answer it. Where are you? She thought about the 11 weeks. She thought about 3:14 in the morning and... Still awake? From a wrong number, and about a stranger who had never asked her a single thing he could use. And she thought, with the arithmetic already finished behind her eyes, that a man with money would send a nurse. That was what men with money did when a voice on a phone got quiet. They sent a service, a private duty nurse for a shift, an agency card, somebody to sit in the chair for 8 hours so nobody had to feel anything. She could take a nurse. A nurse was not a debt with a face on it. Hudson Crown Medical Center. She typed. 14, room 1412. Send whoever you want. Don't come. Sent, 12:51. Nothing came back. At 1 o'clock, she ate half a cup of applesauce because Tara stood there until she did. At 1:20, a resident took her blood pressure and told her the number without being asked, which she appreciated. At 1:40, she read the note to readers a 4th time and found a comma splice in the 2nd paragraph and wanted, absurdly, to email the copy desk about it. At 1:29, she checked the burner. At 1:33, at 1:38, nothing. She set its screen up on the blanket and turned toward the window and let herself understand what had happened, which was that she had handed a stranger the last unguarded thing she owned, and the stranger had gone quiet, and that this was, on balance, the least surprising outcome of the past 4 days. The phone buzzed at 1:47, 2 lines. I forbid it. Look at the door. Naomi's head came around. The corridor observation window ran the width of the wall beside the door, blind up, cord swinging faintly where a cart had brushed it that morning. A man stood on the other side of the glass. Black overcoat, black shirt, no tie, hands empty except for the phone he held up beside his own face at the height of the glass. Screen out, screen toward her, close enough that she could see the shape of the thread on it. Gray bubbles left, blue bubbles right. The last blue bubble was 3 lines of text and a room number. Her room number. He was tall enough that the top of the window frame cut across his forehead. He stood the way people stand when they have decided not to move first. Down the left side of his neck, from just under the ear, and vanishing into the collar of the black shirt, ran a dragon, inked, dark, coiled, one eye picked out in red. Naomi's hand found the bed rail. She had seen that neck. Newark, in the rain. A hotel drop-off line in Los Angeles. A doorway in Fort Lee at 6 in the morning, with a man in a gray suit half a step behind him. 41 times, in black and white, at 3 a.m., with a fever of 101, spread across her kitchen table. She had left those photographs on Victor Hale's conference table on Thursday morning. The door opened. Tara was already crossing the corridor behind him, fast, the beaded lanyard swinging. Sir. Sir. Nobody goes in that. He stopped with one hand on the frame and looked back at Tara and said, quietly, ask her. Tara looked past him into the room. Naomi's mouth had gone dry. She lifted 2 fingers off the rail. Tara stopped walking and stood in the corridor with her jaw set and did not go away. He came in 3 steps and no further. Up close, the room lights caught the watch on his left wrist and the ring on his right little finger, gunmetal, some crest cut into it. He turned the phone and held it out flat on his palm, screen toward her, arm extended, the way you show a passport. I'm giving up today. Do not do that again. And above it, 11 weeks of it, scrolling into the dark. Blue, he said. Naomi looked from the screen to the dragon and back to the face above it, and every photograph she had ever taken of that face reassembled itself in 1 second behind her eyes. Park Ji-hoon, she said. She watched it land. His hand stayed level, and the phone stayed level on it, but something moved behind his eyes and then went very still, and she recognized that too, because she had watched it happen once, through a long lens, in that doorway, when he turned toward the sound of her shudder half a second too slow. Naomi Brooks, he said. Her name. Not read off a badge, not read off a chart, said the way you say something you have known for a while. Say that again, she said. You are the woman with 41 photographs of me, Park Ji-hoon said, and set the phone down on the blanket, screen up, between her hand and the consent form she had not signed. Naomi picked up the phone with 2 fingers and turned it face down on the blanket. Sit, she said. In the chair, not on the bed. He crossed to the chair Ramirez had pulled out that morning and sat with his back straight, coat still on, hands loose on his knees. The chair was too small for him. He made no attempt to pretend otherwise. 11 weeks, Naomi said. How long have you known who I was? 19 days. Give me the date. He gave it without hunting for it. The 12th. A man who worked for him had put a folder on his desk that morning. Her name, her paper, her address in Harlem, a photograph of her sitting in a parked car on 81st Street with a long lens across her knees. Clipped to the inside cover, a recommendation. He had taken the folder off the desk and told the man the matter was closed. Her right hand found the bed rail and stayed there. A recommendation to do what? That is a question for later. It's a question for now. Then the answer is that I stopped it, he said. You are alive and unemployed, and only one of those 2 conditions is my work. Down the corridor, a call light chimed twice and went quiet. Through the glass, Tara stood where she had planted herself, arms folded, watching them the way she watched a monitor. Naomi set the 2 numbers against each other in her head, a wire date against a bank calendar. 19 days of knowing, 11 weeks of writing, 19 fit inside 11 weeks with room left over, and in all that leftover time he had gone on answering her at hours when nobody sane answers anything. She asked him whether he had kept writing after the folder landed. He said yes. She asked whether he had known, on the nights she typed from an infusion chair, exactly whose chair it was. He said yes again, without decorating it. Why, she said. Because at 3 a.m. you told a stranger you were awake, and the stranger was me. His hands opened once and closed. I said you could ask me anything at the end. Ask. Raven Bridge Health Fund. Naomi dragged the tray table across her lap, turned a photocopy right side up, and read 4 names off it in the order she had them. Sundale Logistics, Meridian Hospitality Partners, Belcourt Freight, Ashmount Services, all 4 registered inside 11 blocks of each other in Fort Lee. He listened to the end, then he said them back to her. Belcourt, Ashmount, Sundale, Meridian. A pause. That is the order the money moved. You have them alphabetized. Whoever gave you that list took it from a state registry, not from a ledger. Naomi's pen stopped over the page. She tested him once more, because 11 weeks of work deserved 1 test. Meridian holds a lease on a property in Cliffside Park. Meridian holds nothing. Meridian pays a management fee on a building it has never entered. No heat in it, no pause. The lease is under a name your list does not have, and it is not a shell. It is a laundry with 3 employees and a real cash register, she wrote. Laundry, Cliffside Park, 3 Emp. And underlined it twice. Say it plainly, she said. Did Guryong money touch that fund? Guryong Shells moved Raven Bridge money for 6 years. He said it the way a man reads a number off a page. 4 entities, 2 banks, Wilmington on the back end. And the copays? Real. Insulin, chemotherapy, dialysis, for people with no coverage. His hand turned over once. Behind the payments, a second set of transfers used the same account structure for something else. You were right about the pipe. You were wrong about the paper they handed you. She had spent 11 weeks assembling that sentence out of scraps, and a man in a hospital chair had just handed it to her whole, in under 20 words, with a correction attached. 40 million, she said. He corrected her to 41.3, counting the currency loss, and she wrote the figure on the back of a page that had already been photocopied 3 times. Her handwriting came out crooked. She kept going. She worked the ownership question next, the way she would have worked it on the phone with a records clerk. Short, flat, no adjectives. Who signs for the entities? He said he did. Since when? Since he was 27. Naomi lifted her head off the pillow an inch. That's 5 years. 5 years and 4 months. And in 5 years and 4 months, you never once. Ask me that at the end, Ji-hoon said. You will want the whole answer, not the piece I can hand you while a nurse counts my steps through the glass. Something in her chest stood up to argue. She let it loose, because there was a clock running on this, and the clock had walked into the room wearing a coat. Where were you at 12:51? She said. Fort Lee. 2nd floor of a building you have photographed. Doing what? Sitting through the reading of a motion. His jaw shifted. The Raven Bridge Health Fund is to be dissolved. Remaining assets transferred to a successor entity for administrative wind-down. Hanwari Administrative Services, a Delaware limited liability company registered 8 months ago. She made him give her the number that mattered. 11 million, he said, whatever the fund had left after 6 years of being useful to 2 different kinds of people. She wrote it, then wrote 11 underneath in letters, and drew a circle around the word, because numerals lie flatter than words do when you come back to a page at 4 in the morning. When? The vote is in 9 days. Atlantic City. At our property there, because the directors like the room, and 2 of them like the floor below it. The number landed somewhere behind her sternum and sat there. 9 days for the fund. 9 days. Her editor had shaved off her publication date 3 weeks before anyone had said the word. Dissolve. Out loud in front of her, she kept her face still and wrote the word 9. Twice, once for each place it had shown up in her life this month. You walked out, she said. I stayed 20 minutes, long enough to hear the motion read into the record and to see who read it. He looked at the phone lying face down on her blanket. Then a woman told me she was giving up today. Don't. You asked where I was. I asked where you were, not what you felt about it. Then we have nothing further on that subject, he said, and the corner of his mouth moved and stopped. Naomi looked at the clock over the door. 2:41. She reached past the photocopies, past his phone, and pulled the consent form toward her by its corner. Don't move, she said. Don't say anything. If you say one word, I will make Tara walk you to the elevator. His hands went back where they had been. She picked up the room phone and had the station page Dr. Ramirez. 4 minutes. Ramirez came in fast, tablet against her ribs, eyes catching on the man in the chair, and staying there a beat longer than politeness allowed. "You paged me." "I want the Tuesday slot." Ramirez set the tablet down. "You had until 4. It's 2:49. "It is." Ramirez uncapped nothing, moved nothing, simply held out her own pen. "Then sign it." The IV was taped to the back of Naomi's left hand. She had signed this form 11 times before, and 11 times she had signed it left-handed to keep the right one free for a notebook. She took the pen in her right hand instead. Her fingers had been curled since Saturday, and they went to the paper stiff, like something borrowed. The signature came out wrong. Too big. The B. Broken in the middle. She looked at it, then at Ramirez. "I need you to hear the next part," Naomi said. "Both of you. I'm listening. I am not signing this because he came." Her chin came up an inch. "He didn't pay for it. He isn't going to pay for it. And if he offers, I'll refuse it in front of a witness. I'm signing it because Tuesday is mine, and I want it." Ramirez took the form, checked the date line, and clipped it to her tablet. Noted. "Write it in the chart. I'll write that the patient consented independently." Ramirez capped the pen and gave the rest of it in the clipped order she gave everything. 7 a.m. Tuesday. Nothing by mouth after midnight Monday. Temperature over 100.4, reported by the nurse and not by the patient. And a promise that the chair by the window would be raised before Naomi came back from the unit. Then she tipped the tablet an inch toward the chair by the wall. "Who is this?" "A source." Ramirez looked at the coat, the shoulders, the tattoo running under the collar, and took 2 full seconds about it. "Sources leave when I'm in the room." He stood, went out, and waited in the corridor with his back to the glass while Ramirez finished the rest of her questions. Appetite, bowel, the ache at the IV site, the 4 assistance programs, 2 of which Naomi could sign for on Monday. Ramirez left. He came back in and closed the door with his hand flat against it so it made no sound. "Now," Naomi said, "terms. Yours first." "I publish." She set the pen across her knuckles. "Not when you're ready. When I am. There is no version of this where you read a draft." Agreed. The second term took her longer because she itemized it. No wire, no car, no private room, no quiet arrangement, with the billing office on the second floor. If $1 of his touched her care, she said, she would stop working and write about the dollar instead. He agreed to that one without moving anything but his eyes. The third term she delivered with her hand flat on the rail. Nobody gets hurt. No visits. No conversations in parking garages. Nobody falling down a set of stairs in Queens. If one person connected to this ended up in a hospital that was not this one, she would carry everything she had to the federal building, including him. He took a breath before he agreed to that. It was the only term that cost him anything visible. "Originals," she said. "Not scans, not summaries, not a lawyer's memo about what the originals say. Ledgers, bank confirmations, hotel folios with the property codes intact, contracts with the signature pages still attached. That will take 2 trips." "Then make 2 trips. And my father's files," he said. "You will want those." Naomi's pen came up. "Say more." He kept paper at the house in Alpine. 2 drawers, 40 years, in his own hand and nobody else's. Ji-hoon's thumb moved once across the ring on his little finger, a small motion, done and finished. "Nothing in those drawers has ever been outside that house." "Then that's my 5th term. Those come too." He attached a condition to her 5th term before she finished saying it. The personal papers would stay inside room 14112. They would arrive with him and leave with him, and while they sat on that tray table, They would not go down to the copier on the 9th floor, not one page, not once. You want to bring me 40 years of your father's handwriting and tell me I can't copy it. I want you to read every page of it, he said. I am telling you where you may stand while you do. She held his eyes for a long moment. Fine. One more. He leaned forward, elbows braced, the coat pulling at the shoulders. If what is in that box says the thief is me, you print that. I was going to print that anyway. I know, he said. I wanted it said out loud in a room with a window. The door opened without a knock. Tara came in, carrying a dry erase marker, like she meant to use it on someone. She had a hospital badge in her other hand. His, from the visitor printer, the sticker kind, and she slapped it against his chest until he took it. Driver's license, she said. Tara, driver's license, or he's out. He produced it. Tara held it up, photographed it with her phone, photographed the badge, and handed the license back. That goes to my sister, she told him. Sergeant, 2-5. She'll have your face by 9 tonight, either way. He said it was reasonable, which was a mistake. Don't tell me what's reasonable in my unit. She went to the whiteboard by the door, the one that had said nurse, Tara E. and date, sun in blue since 7 that morning, and wiped the bottom half clean with the side of her fist. Then she wrote, 1. Hands washed at the door, every time. 2. Nobody enters 1412 without going through the station. That includes him. 3. Out by 21 o'clock. No exceptions. No negotiating with me at 20:55. 4. She eats before she works. If the tray comes back full, the papers go on the windowsill. 5. 6 hours of sleep. I check. 6. If her line alarms, you press the call button and you step back. She capped the marker, uncapped it, and wrote one more line under the 6 line, smaller, in the corner. 7. I am watching. The marker squeaked on the last stroke. Nobody in the room said anything while it did. Read it back, Tara said. He read all 7 aloud, in order, in the voice of a man reading a delivery manifest. Tara listened to the end with the cap in her fist, and something in her jaw let go by a millimeter. Then we're going to get along. She turned to Naomi, and the hardness went out of her shoulders, the way it went out of them at the end of a code. Tuesday's on the board. Ramirez told me in the hall. I signed it myself. I know you did, Tara said. That's the only reason a stranger is standing in my room. He left at 5:10 to get whatever he was going to get. At 6, Tara came in with her charting finished and her lanyard already in her fist, and she sat down on the edge of the bed, which broke a rule of her own about beds. Ask it, Naomi said. Did you sign that form because he walked in here? No. Say it slower and look at me. Naomi turned her head on the pillow. I signed it at 2:49, right-handed, because Tuesday is mine. He was standing in the corridor when I did it. Ramirez wrote it in the chart. Tara took her time with that. Okay. Okay? Okay. Okay means I believe you and I still don't like him. She stood and straightened the blanket with 2 hard tugs. I'm off at 7. Night shift is Marisol. She's meaner than me and she counts visitors twice. At the door, she tapped Rule 7 with a knuckle. That one's for you too, not just for him. At 6:40, he came back up. He carried the box himself, past the station, past Tara's chin, and Naomi heard it before she saw it. A heavy corner knocking once against the doorframe. Leather, oxblood, brass at the corners, a hinged lid worn pale where a hand had lifted it for years. On the front, below the clasp, 3 Korean characters had been stamped into the leather and rubbed almost flat. He set it on the wide sill under the window, where the cardboard box from the newsroom already sat, its flap still bent from the copy editor's foot. The two boxes stood side by side against the dark glass. Cardboard and leather. 6 years of her working life in one, and something older than that in the other, and neither of them looked like the safer object in the room. Naomi made him lift the leather one onto the tray table and take it off again, twice, so she could learn the weight of it before she was alone with it. 20 pounds, maybe more, the hinge complained. Paper inside shifted like sand. Ledgers, folios, 4 contracts, he said. The rest tomorrow. And the drawers. Tuesday. After. Before, Naomi said. I'll be in a chair until 2, not dead. After, he said. Read them when your hands are yours. The ring on his little finger caught the lamp when he opened the clasp. Matte, gunmetal, 9 dragons cut so deep the metal held shadow in the grooves. He turned the lid back on its hinge and stood away from it. I have never opened this in front of anyone, he said. Then don't watch me do it. He looked at her. Then he pulled his coat straight, checked the clock, and left himself 11 minutes of margin on Rule 3. Blue, he said, from the doorway. Don't call me that in here. Naomi, he gave the name room, like something carried up 14 floors by hand. There is a page in there that will put one question in your mouth. Ask it out loud. Tonight. He left. Through the glass, she watched him stop at the station, take the marker off the ledge, and read Tara's 7 rules once more from the corridor side before he walked to the elevators. Naomi lay still for 20 minutes, with the lamp off and the box 8 feet away on the sill. Then she did the work she could do lying down. She ate what was on the tray because of Rule 4, turkey, a roll, applesauce again, and let the night nurse take her temperature and write 99.1 on the board. She asked for 2 extra pillows and a second pen. She cleared the tray table down to her own photocopies and squared them at the corner. The old ritual before a long night. Her hands shook through all of it. She made them finish anyway. At 9:40, the corridor lights dropped to night level, and the glass turned into a mirror. Naomi swung the tray table across, reached out, and dragged the leather box onto her knees an inch at a time. The clasp came up under her thumb. She lifted the lid, and the smell that came out of it was old paper and cedar, and a house she had never been inside. On top of the ledgers, crosswise, lay a slim folder with no company name on it. Her own name was typed on the tab, Naomi R. Brooks. She opened it. A photograph of herself, taken through a car window on 81st Street, her camera in her lap, and her mouth open in the middle of a word. Under it, a second photograph. Under that, a single sheet, unsigned, undated by any hand she could read, with one line typed across the middle, and the sender's name struck out in heavy black ink that had gone through the paper. The reporter is a liability. Handle it before the vote. Naomi read it 3 times. Then she reached for the burner under her pillow, and for the first time in 11 weeks, she was the one who called him. He picked up on the second ring. Behind him, a car door shut, and then the background went flat, the way a line goes when a man walks away from his driver. You found it, he said. You said there was a page. Naomi held the sheet flat under the lamp. You left out that the page was about me. I told you to ask it out loud. Fine. Who inked out the name? I did. She let 3 seconds pass. With what? A marker from the desk in Alpine. Saturday night, before the box left the house. Then unink it. No. The word landed with no apology attached to it. She shifted the folder off her knees onto the blanket and pressed her thumb into the black bar where a name used to be. The ink had gone through the paper and blistered it. You want me to guess? She said. I want you to arrive. His voice stayed level. If I hand you the name tonight, you have a name from a man with an interest. In a room with lawyers, someone will ask you who told you. You will say, a Guryong chairman told me. That is worth nothing. And if I find it in paper? Then it survives the question. Naomi looked at the ledger lying open across her thighs, the one she had pulled out to make room for the folder. Every page carried a small stamped code in the upper corner, hand-pressed, ink gone rusty on the older sheets. There's a number on every page in here, she said. Corner, stamped, not printed. Folio marks, my grandfather's system. 4 digits, a letter, a year. Where else do those numbers exist? Nowhere. They are assigned by hand when a document enters the box. Say that again slowly. They exist inside the box, he said. Nothing carries them out. No bank, no registry, no lawyer. She was already reaching across the bed rail. Her photocopy set sat squared at the corner of the tray table, and the top page was the one she had spent 11 weeks calling a pledge letter. She turned it toward the lamp and ran her thumbnail down the right margin. There it was. Upper corner, small, gray in reproduction, because a copier had eaten the ink twice. 0417B09. Ji-hoon. Yes. The forgery has a folio mark on it. The line went quiet enough that she heard a truck pass wherever he was standing. Read it to me. 0417B09. Do not move that page, he said. I am coming back up. It's 10:20. I am coming back up. Rule 3 is on the wall, Naomi said. You read it out loud yourself. He hung up. 11 minutes later, the night nurse Marisol appeared in the doorway with her chin set and reported that a large man in a black overcoat had presented himself at the 14th floor station and been informed that visiting hours ended at 2100. Naomi asked what he did. Marisol said he thanked her, asked for the number of the station phone, and took the elevator down. He was still in the lobby at 7 in the morning. Tara found him there on her way in and told Naomi about it while she checked the IV site, working the tape loose with 2 fingers. Chairs by the coffee machine, same coat. He got up when he saw the badge. Did he ask to come up? He asked if you'd eaten. Naomi looked at Rule 4 on the whiteboard. What did you tell him? That the answer to that was between me and you. Tara pressed a fresh dressing down. He's been down there 9 hours, Naomi. Men like that don't sit in plastic chairs. Send him up at 9. At 8:40, a woman from financial counseling came with a folder and a stack of duplicate forms, and Naomi signed the 2 programs she qualified for. Right-handed again, the letters still coming out too big. One covered a percentage of infusion cost retroactive to admission. One covered nothing until a determination in 6 weeks. The woman said she was sorry it wasn't more. Naomi told her to file both today, not Wednesday. Ji-hoon came in at 9 with the second load in 2 canvas bags and set them on the floor because the windowsill was full. By noon, room 1412 stopped looking like a hospital room. Naomi could not stand for more than 4 minutes at a stretch, so she directed and he taped. The window over the East River took the ledger pages, 4 columns, 6 years, oldest on the left. The closet door took her photocopies. The wall between the sink and the bathroom took the bank confirmations, and the tray table stayed clear for whatever she was holding. Tara came in at 1, looked at the glass, and made exactly 2 rules: nothing over the vitals monitor, and nothing on the door because the door had to open in 3 seconds. Nothing on the door, Naomi said, and he wipes the tape residue off my window when this is over. He will, Ji-hoon said. I will, from the floor, where he was sorting hotel folios into years, with his coat off for the first time. Naomi ran the room the way she had run a desk. Ledgers by year, folios by property code, contracts by signature page, and one rule she invented on the spot: anything he handed her went face down until she asked for it, so that she chose the order of what she saw. He accepted that without argument. Twice he started to explain a column and she raised a finger and he stopped. "You'll tell me what it means after I decide what it says," she said. "That is slower. That's the point." Naomi worked the folio mark first. She had him bring the ledger for the year the mark named, and she made him find the page himself and read the entry to her while she watched his hands. 0417 B09, he said. "A pledge letter." October of that year, $200,000 committed to a dialysis program in Queens over 4 years. "Is the original in this room?" He opened the second canvas bag and found it in under a minute, which told her the bags were not packed at random. He handed her a single sheet, typed on old letterhead, one paragraph, signed at the bottom. Naomi laid the real one beside her photocopy and went quiet for 6 minutes. She worked the way she had at 3 in the morning with a fever, except that this time, somebody was watching. Margins first, then the letterhead, then the paragraph indents, then the descenders on the typed capitals. She used the edge of a second sheet as a ruler and slid it down both pages a line at a time. Ji-hoon stayed where he was and let her have the silence, which she noticed and filed away. The signature blocks matched, not similar, matched, down to the break in the ink at the second stroke that Hale's forensic vendor had circled, and Hale had thrown at her across a conference table. The forgery had not imitated a signature, it had photographed one. "Somebody put this page on a glass," she said. "This exact page, not a copy of it. This one." Ji-hoon took the 2 sheets and held them up together against the window light, one behind the other. The marks lined up. "When did this leave the box?" she asked. "It has never left the box." "Then somebody opened your box." He set the pages down on the sill with more care than the answer needed. 9 people have had a key in 40 years. 6 are dead. Names. Later. "That's twice," Naomi said. She let it go because the second thing was already sitting under her wrist, and she had been avoiding it for an hour. The forged pledge letter carried a second paragraph her editors had loved, the one Daniel had twice called clean. 15 words about turning no one away at the window. She had quoted it in 3 drafts. The 2009 original had a handwritten note in the left margin, 4 lines, upright letters, the ink pressed hard enough to emboss the back of the page. The 15 words were there, word for word, comma splice and all. Naomi turned the original over and read the back the way she'd been taught to read paper, by feel. Then she turned it face up again and held it out to him. "Whose hand is this?" He took the page. He read 4 lines he had clearly read before, and something happened in his shoulders that she had never caught in 41 photographs. "I will answer that at the end." "That's 3. "I know." "Then hear the part you don't get to postpone." She pulled herself straighter against the rail. "Whoever built the envelope that ended my career had this letter in their hands. Not a scan of it. The paper. They copied a folio number they didn't understand well enough to remove, and they lifted a line out of a margin nobody outside this room has ever seen. Yes. Your forger isn't a vendor in Fort Lee." She waited until he looked up. "Your forger has a key." He stood. He crossed to the window and gripped the frame at the height of the 4th ledger column, and Naomi watched 20 pounds of leatherbox calm come apart in a man who had sat 9 hours in a plastic chair without complaining once. "I need the corridor," he said. "You need the corridor for what?" 2 accounts and a server. Naomi hit the bed control and brought herself up another 8 degrees. Term 3. "Nobody gets hurt." He was already reaching for his coat. I am going to freeze 2 accounts by signature, because I am still the signature. Belcourt and Ashmount. This morning, before the banks in Fort Lee close their 9:30 window, then a retention notice to a data facility in Cliffside Park. What's in Cliffside Park? A server with 6 years of transfer authorizations. It is scheduled for destruction on Thursday under a document retention policy signed in February. Signed by who? He smiled without any warmth in it. Later. 4, she said. He took the call in the corridor, standing where she could see him through the observation window, which she understood was deliberate. 22 minutes, 3 calls. On the second one, he read a 14-digit number off his phone twice and spelled a lawyer's name. On the third, he raised his voice, for the only time that day, 6 words in Korean, and then went back to level. He came in and reported like a man handing over receipts, because she had made it a term. 2 accounts frozen at 9:41. Nobody was touched, nobody was called except a bank officer named Reyes and a lawyer named Whitfield, whose retention letter went to the facility at 9:52. The server is preserved. If somebody wants it destroyed now, they have to sue me for it, in writing, with a name on the filing. Naomi wrote every one of those times on the back of a photocopy. Say the last part again. They have to put a name on it. Good, she said. That's the first thing you've done that I can print. Tuesday she went down at 7 and came back up at 1:50, and for 4 hours the war room was just a room again. The infusion took what it always took. Her hands stopped being hers, around 11, and stayed that way into the afternoon. She could hold a cup with 2 of them, and a pen with neither. Tara ran interference at the door and let no one past, including a man in an overcoat who arrived at 2 and was told to sit. Ramirez came through at 3 and stood at the taped window for a while before she said anything. Is any of that going to make you a person who sleeps? Some of it's going to make me a person who gets paid. Both programs went in? Yesterday. She filed them Monday, not Wednesday. Ramirez wrote something on her tablet. Your counts held through the cycle. That's the sentence I came to say. She tapped the rail twice on her way out. Second cycle in 3 weeks. Do not make me chase you for it. He sat until 4:20. When Tara finally let him in, he had a folder of printouts under his arm and did not look at the glass wall of ledgers at all. You said read them when your hands are yours, Naomi said. They're not yours yet either. Sit. He sat. He put the printouts on the tray table and turned them so they faced her. The server gave up 11 authorizations, he said, recovered this afternoon. Wires out of Belcourt and Ashmount, all of them after the fund started closing. Every one of them carries the credential of the officer who released it. Naomi's fingers were still thick. She used the back of a pen to slide the top sheet around. 11 lines. Same 8-character string on all 11, in a column headed with a word she had seen in 1,000 corporate exports. She read it out loud. Then she went to the closet door, or rather, sent him to it, and had him pull down the 4 contracts he'd carried up Sunday night. The counter-signature block on the third one carried the same 8 characters printed under the line, the way a title always is. Park Seong-ho, Chief Financial Officer, Guryong Group. Naomi sat with that for a long moment. Gray suit, she said. Ji-hoon looked up. Fort Lee, 6 in the morning, a doorway I photographed from a parked car across the street. There's a man half a step behind you in every frame. Same suit every time, silver tie. My cousin, Ji-hoon said, who read the dissolution motion into the record on Sunday while you sat there 20 minutes and walked out. You know already. I want you to say it in this room. He said the name. Naomi wrote it on the window in marker. in the empty column on the right, and then stepped back too fast and had to catch the rail. Ji-hoon came up half a step and stopped when she put her hand out. 9 days ago, your fund's assets get pointed at a Delaware shell, she said. 19 days before that, somebody drops a folder on your desk with my address in it and a recommendation you won't repeat. And somewhere in between, somebody with a key to your family's box builds an envelope good enough to kill a reporter's career and mails it to me. To you specifically. To me specifically, she was breathing shallow. I've been asking the wrong question for a week. It isn't who forged it. It's why the forger wanted the story to run at all. The room phone rang at 8:19 that night. Naomi picked it up, expecting Ramirez. Instead, she got a man breathing hard in a place with an echo, and it took her 2 seconds to place him, because she had stopped waiting for it. It's Daniel. This is a payphone in the Port Authority, and I have about 4 minutes. You said you'd call Friday. I know what I said. Paper crackled. I pulled the CMS audit log off the archive server. Publication dates are versioned, Naomi. Every change writes a row. Nobody ever looks at the rows. Naomi reached for a pen with her bad hand and switched it to her good one. Say it. Your Raven Bridge story was scheduled. Then it got moved forward 9 days. 1 edit, 1 row, 11:20 at night, from a workstation on the executive floor, under Victor Hale's login. Not the desk, not legal, him. I already told him that to his face. You told him he moved it, Daniel said. You didn't have the date. Give me the date. He gave it. Naomi wrote it on her wrist because it was the closest clean surface, and then she stopped and looked at the second number she had written on the back of a photocopy 9 days ago in a newsroom lobby she had been carried out of. The envelope had been logged into the mailroom at 4 p.m. on a Friday. Hale had moved her publication date 15 days before that. Daniel, her voice came out very quiet. The envelope hadn't arrived yet. Silence on the line, then, thin, what? He accelerated a story 15 days before the documents that killed it came through the door. Naomi looked at the window, at 6 years of ledger columns, and one name in fresh marker on the right-hand side. Nobody rushes a story he hasn't seen. Across the room, Ji-hoon had gone completely still, both hands flat on the sill. Unless somebody told him it was coming, Naomi said. Naomi hung up before Daniel's 4 minutes ran out. Under the date on her wrist, she wrote 2 more words in ballpoint. Who told? Ji-hoon came off the sill. The envelope was logged on a Friday. The date moved 15 days before that. So whoever mailed it told Hale first, or paid him first. She looked at the taped columns on the glass. 6 years of a family's money in 4 rows, and she thought about a man who uncaps a pen to buy himself 30 seconds. Hale doesn't take an envelope, she said. He takes a retainer from something respectable. Shells have no payroll. Shells have no Christmas party. She lifted 2 fingers toward the window, the whole width of it. Everything on that glass is a mailbox. I want the companies with trucks. He gave her a name in 4 seconds. Hanrim Transport Services. Fort Lee, 22 trucks. A yard on Bergen Turnpike. 31 drivers with a union contract. Real fuel, real tires, real accountants. Where are its books? In the second drawer in Alpine. Bring the drawer. Tara knocked once at 2058 and stood in the doorway with her arms crossed until he had his coat over his arm. He read the 7 rules on the whiteboard on his way past them, the way a man checks a wall he already knows. Then the corridor lights dropped to night level, and Naomi ate the rest of a cup of broth, because Rule 4 was Rule 4. At 5 the next morning, Ji-hoon knelt on the floor of a study in Alpine, with the second drawer pulled all the way out. His father's hand ran across 40 years of paper, small and slanted, the same 9 strokes for every date. Hanrim's disbursement ledger sat under 2 tax binders. He lifted it out to pack it, and it fell open where a spine breaks, on a page somebody had opened often. Folio 2208, Ds 25. One line, stamped in his grandfather's corner code, $240,000. Hanrim Transport Services, Fort Lee, to Doyle Strategic Communications LLC, Greenwich, Connecticut. Purpose typed in 7 characters. Advisory. He read the settlement date twice. He had spent Tuesday evening standing 4 feet from a woman with a date written on her wrist in blue ballpoint, and he had read that date the way he read everything, once, permanently. The wire had cleared 2 days before it. Jihoon knelt there for a while, with the ledger open across his knees. Then he took the corner of the page between his thumb and the flat of his finger and worked it out of the binding, slowly, so the paper would come whole. He folded it twice and put it in the inside left pocket of his coat. What he told himself, driving over the bridge with 2 drawers belted into the back seat, was that he would hand it to her with everything else, at the end, in the right order. He carried the drawers up at 9 and set them on the floor by the closet. Naomi worked them for 4 hours and found 40 years of a man's arithmetic and nothing that said Raven Bridge out loud. Around 1, her hands quit, and he read aloud to her from the 2019 binder while she listened with her eyes shut, and twice she stopped him to have a figure repeated, and twice the figure was the same. Thursday came and went, and nobody sued him for the server. On Friday, at 4:11 in the afternoon, the paper's HR system emailed her a determination. The internal review had concluded. Her separation was reclassified, termination for cause, severance denied in full. 2 paragraphs, 1 attachment, no signature block, a reply address that ended in no reply. Naomi read it on the room phone's little screen and then read it again on her own phone, because the sentence was short enough that she thought she had misread it. "What?" Tara said from the door. "For cause." Tara came in and read it over her shoulder and put her hand flat on the bed rail and left it there. Saturday morning, the assistance program answered. The one that covered a percentage of infusion cost retroactive to admission required involuntary separation without cause. Her file had changed underneath it. Enrollment rescinded, effective the date of determination, balance restored to the account. The letter used the word restored. At 11, a phlebotomy tech drew her labs. At 2, Tara came in without the ice chips and without anything to say about her weekend, and Naomi watched her hold the silence and knew the shape of the numbers before anyone printed them. "Say it," Naomi said. "Doctor says it." "Then bring me the applesauce and stop standing like that." Tara brought the applesauce. She stayed 9 minutes past the end of her round and talked about her sister's car, and Naomi ate 3 spoons and let her. Jihoon arrived at 4 with a folio she had asked for on Thursday and stayed until 2049. He read numbers to her for 2 hours in a room with a window full of his family's paper. His coat hung on the back of the chair the entire time. Once, reaching past it for a binder, he moved it to the far hook. Naomi logged that the way she logged everything, without knowing yet what it was. Sunday the paper published 900 words. Not the note. A full editor's note on the Raven Bridge investigation, top of the site, above a photograph of the building. It named her 7 times. It said the review found no evidence of intent, which is the sentence you write about someone you are finished with. It described a reporter who accepted a document because the document agreed with her. Her burner buzzed at 7:20 with 2 words from a man who had already read it. She left the phone face down. At 8, she had the aide hand her the index off the windowsill. She had kept it since Monday of the week before. Every folio mark on every page taped to her window, copied in her own hand, 4 columns, in the order they hung. She had done it because a woman who has been handed one forged document counts what she is holding. She went down the glass with her finger and the index in her lap. 20 minutes in, a number in the fourth column had nothing on the wall to match it. Naomi read her own handwriting 3 times. Then she reached down to where the drawers stood open, pulled the Hanram ledger onto her knees, and turned it to the back, where his grandfather's system did the thing that systems do. An index of payees, alphabetical, folio mark beside each name. Doyle Strategic Communications LLC, 2208, D-25, 240. The page itself was gone out of the binding. The paper had been worked loose, not torn. She sat with that for a full minute. Then she typed the name into the Connecticut Business Registry on her phone and got a single-member LLC formed 11 years ago at a residential address in Greenwich, and the member's name was Catherine Doyle Hale. The wedding announcement had run in her own paper. She had a vague memory of the page it ran on. She checked the settlement date against her wrist. The ink had gone gray in 4 days, but the numbers held. 2 days between them. $240,000. And then a man on the executive floor sat down at 11:20 at night and moved a story forward 9 days, 15 days before he had seen a single page of it. Naomi put the phone down on the blanket. Her eyes went to the door. He came at 9:15 with coffee he knew she would refuse, and a folder of hotel folios under his arm. He washed his hands at the door, which was Rule 1. "Empty your coat," she said. He stood with the folder against his ribs. "Naomi." "Which pocket?" "Inside left." He said it without any work in his voice, and that was the part she would think about later, that he answered on the first ask, like a man who had been carrying something heavy and was tired of the weight of it. "Take it out." He set the folded page on the tray table and smoothed it once with 2 fingers, which was a habit, and which she hated at that moment more than the theft. "Wednesday," she said. "Yes." 5 a.m., Alpine, second drawer. "Yes." "You read my wrist Tuesday night." "I read your wrist Tuesday night." "Say the rest of it." "I checked the settlement date against the date on your arm. Then I folded the page and put it in my coat and drove here and set 2 drawers on your floor and let you work them for 4 hours. Naomi's hands were shaking, and she let them, and she kept her voice flat because flat carried further. "Why?" "Because Victor Hale is a bought man and my cousin is the vote." He kept his eyes on her. "If I gave you that page on Wednesday, you would have written the editor. You would have stopped at the man who took the money. You decided that." "Yes." "For a woman who signed a form right-handed, so nobody could say a man walked her to it." She pulled the tray table an inch toward herself. "When were you going to hand it over?" "Tuesday, in Atlantic City, during the vote. After my name is a search result." She nodded slowly, the way she nodded when a source finally said the true thing. "You inked out a name because you decided I couldn't carry it. You said later about a handwriting. You said, at the end, about 9 keys and 6 dead men. And then you went into your own pocket with my story. That page was going to you. On your schedule." Her voice went down instead of up. "Term 4, originals, everything, signature pages attached. You broke it standing in this room with your hands washed." He said her name once. She raised her hand off the rail, and he stopped like a car. "Get out!" He took a breath to speak, and she pointed at the window before he could use it. "And take your paper." She got out of the bed. Her legs took her weight for 3 seconds, and then took it badly, and she went along the rail, hand over hand, to the glass, and started pulling ledger pages off the tape. 6 years came down out of order. He stepped toward her once, and she turned with a page in her fist, and he stopped again and stood where he was and let her do it, which was the only correct thing he did that morning. It took her 11 minutes. She stacked them wrong on purpose. She peeled the photocopies off the closet door herself, and the bank confirmations off the wall between the sink and the bathroom, and she put Sung-ho's name into the pile face down. Then she sat on the edge of the bed with her chest going and told him to wipe the tape residue off the glass. He wiped it, both panes, the whole width, with a folded handkerchief, unhurried, while a woman with an IV in her hand watched him do it. Tara had written that rule at 1 o'clock on a Monday, and he had agreed to it, and he honored it now, the way he honored everything except the one that mattered. He put the drawers back in the archive box and closed the clasp. Naomi reached under her pillow and took out the flip phone with the scuffed hinge and set it on the lid of the box. "No," he said. "You've never once lied to me." She let go of it. "You just stopped talking at the useful part." He looked at the phone on the lid for a long moment. He lifted the box with the phone still sitting on it and carried both out of room 1412, and he did not touch it. Through the corridor window he stopped. He set the box down on the floor of the hallway. He took his own phone out and raised it beside his head, with the screen turned toward the glass. The thread lit up, and he stood there, the way he had stood there 9 days ago, and waited to be let in. Naomi reached up and found the pull cord. The vertical blind came across in one motion, slat after slat, and the corridor went away. She heard the box lift off the floor. She counted to 60, and then to 60 again, and the 14th floor made its ordinary Sunday noise. A cart, a call bell, somebody's television. Then she got back into the bed by herself, which took longer than it should have, and pressed the call button twice by accident and once on purpose. Tara came in fast and stopped short. Her eyes went to the stripped glass, then down to the stack of paper beside the closet door, wrong side up, the corners no longer square. "Where is it?" Tara said. "Gone with him." "All of it?" "All of it." Tara stood there, working her jaw. "You want me to call my sister?" "For what? He didn't take anything of mine." Naomi laid her head back. "He gave it all to me first. That's the part I keep landing on." Tara pulled the chair around and sat in it backward and stayed 12 minutes without saying anything useful, which was the correct amount and the correct nothing. At 1:40, the room phone rang. "Daniel," from a landline, no coins dropping this time. "They walked me out Friday," he said. It flagged the archive query, unauthorized access to a production system. Suspended or fired. Suspended, pending. He laughed at nothing. "They took my badge at the elevator." Hale watched from the glass. Naomi closed her eyes. "I asked you for that log. I pulled it before you asked. I pulled it Thursday and sat on it 4 days." A pause on the line. "I'm not doing that again, Daniel." "I know." He said he had printed the row. And he said the printout was in his mother's house in Bayonne, in an envelope, with the date. Then he asked how she was, and she told him the truth, which was that she had thrown her only source out of the room 40 minutes ago and taken his paper off her window with her own hands. "Do you still have anything?" "I have what I remember," she said, "and I have an index." At 3:20, Dr. Ramirez came in with the tablet held against her ribs and Tara behind her, and neither of them looked at the bare window, which was how Naomi knew they had already discussed it at the station. "Your counts came down," Ramirez said. "How far?" Ramirez turned the tablet around and let her read it herself, which Naomi would remember as a kindness. Then she laid out the change. Not 1 cycle in 3 weeks. An extended induction, 3 additional infusions. First one Wednesday at 7, then 2 more at 10-day spacing, and a repeat panel between each. "And the cost," Naomi said. "More than the last one. Say the number." Ramirez said the number. Tara looked at the ceiling. "There's a new consent," Ramirez said, and set it on the tray table, on top of the fold in the page Ji-hoon had left, and put her pen beside it. You have until tomorrow. I don't need until tomorrow. Naomi looked at the two of them. Both of you go out. Tara's jaw set. Naomi, out. They went. The door swung shut on its 3-second closer, and the room had nobody in it. The IV had been moved to her right forearm on Friday when the old site failed, so this time she took the pen in her left hand, which is how she had signed the first 11. The signature came out the way it used to look, small, level, hers. She wrote the date under it. She checked the date twice. Then she sat with one page of paper on an empty tray table in a room with clean windows, no ledgers, no box, no phone under the pillow, 41 photographs somewhere on a conference table in a building she was banned from, and a search result with her name in it 7 times. Naomi turned the consent form over. On the back she wrote, Raven Bridge, who signed the charter first? She picked up the room phone and asked the operator for New Jersey charitable registrations. It rang 11 times before an after-hours recording told her the office opened at 8. Tara pushed the door open without knocking and stood there holding out the flip phone. He left this at the desk, she said. He asked me to put it in your hand. Naomi took the flip phone and pushed it under her thigh, where she could feel it through the gown. She left the thread closed. Dial 9 for an outside line from in here, right? Tara folded her arms. You're not calling him. I'm calling Bayonne. Daniel Reed picked up on the 4th ring. Naomi gave him 3 instructions in under a minute. Bring the dated envelope. Bring a laptop that has never touched the paper's network. Be on the 14th floor at 9 in the morning. He asked what they were chasing. She told him a name she had written on the back of a consent form and hung up before he could say he was suspended. Tara stood in the doorway a while longer. That's 2 visitors. That's 1 visitor and 1 unemployed man. At 8 the next morning, the New Jersey Charitable Registrations Office answered on the 2nd ring. Naomi asked for the original charter of the Raven Bridge Health Fund, filed 2006, and gave the entity number off her own notes. The clerk read the officers aloud, while Naomi wrote left-handed on the back of an emesis bag, the only clean paper she had. Founder and first signatory, Park Sun-hee. Naomi made him spell it. She made him read the purpose clause twice. The first paragraph was what she already knew: copays, insulin, dialysis, chemotherapy, uninsured households, priority to immigrant families in Bergen and Hudson counties. The second paragraph was not in any filing she had ever pulled. Restitution, the clerk read, bored, to persons injured by the acts of Guryong Group, its officers, affiliates, and predecessors, without requirement of claim, admission, or publicity. Naomi asked him to say the last 4 words again. He did. She thanked him and sat with the receiver in her lap until the dial tone came on. Daniel arrived at 9:40 with a canvas bag and a paper cup he had brought her out of habit. Tara took his license, photographed it, and put the visitor sticker on his chest before he got past the frame. He read the 7 rules on the whiteboard and then read them again. You have a system, he said. She has a sergeant, Naomi said. Sit. They built it on the bare window with a marker, because there was nothing left to tape. Daniel worked the state amendment history. Naomi worked the phone. Tara stood at the door for the first hour and then stopped pretending she was working and pulled up the chair. The amendments came in a stack of scanned PDFs, badly rotated. 9 years back, a death certificate filed in Bergen County. 3 months after that, the fund's registered agent changed. 2 months after that, the board was reconstituted. 3 officers out, 2 in, both of them Guryong. 6 years back, the disbursement pattern doubled, and the first Fort Lee shell appeared on a wire memo line. Naomi had Daniel pull the fund's first 4 years of grants, 1,100 households. Bergen, Hudson, a cluster in Flushing. 22 of the payments carried no diagnosis code at all, a name, an address, an amount, and a one-word memo line in Korean that the clerk's translation software rendered as owed. "That's not charity," Daniel said. "That's a settlement schedule." "Read the trucking claims," Naomi said. "Somebody was paying widows without making them sign anything." "She dies," Daniel said, "and the fund gets new plumbing within the year." Naomi wrote the death date on the glass and drew a line under it. It wasn't plumbing, it was a mouth. Somebody found a charity nobody audits and started feeding it. Who took over? Her husband. Naomi lifted the burner. 11 weeks of rules, and she typed the question that had been postponed 3 times. "Whose hand is in the margin?" The reply came in under a minute. "I will bring the box. Ask me the rest out loud." He came at 2, coat over his arm, and set the archive box on the tray table without being told where. Tara stayed in the room this time, in the chair by the sink, and nobody argued about it. He turned the box around so the front faced Naomi and put his thumb beside the 3 stamped characters worn almost flat. "Park Sun-hee," he said. "My mother, my grandfather gave her the box when she married in. She kept it 11 years. The folio system, his. She used it better than he did." He opened the clasp. She stamped the 2009 letter herself. The 4 lines in the margin are hers. She wrote her arguments in the margins because she thought the middle of a page belonged to the lawyers. Naomi's hand went flat on the blanket. "You knew that Monday." "I knew it the second I read it. 9 key holders, 6 dead." He said the names. His grandfather, 2 great-uncles, a company secretary who died in Seoul in 2004, his mother, his father. Then the living 3, an aunt in Busan who has never left Korea, himself, and Park Seong-ho, who was given a key at 24 because he was family and because nobody thought the box mattered anymore. Tara made a sound in the chair and swallowed it. 5 years, Naomi said. "You owe me the whole answer." He sat. The chair was still too small for him, and he stopped noticing it. "I signed my first entity at 27 because my father was dying, and somebody had to sign. 6 weeks in, I found the second set of transfers. I took the ledgers to Alpine, and I read 40 years in 11 days. He put his hands on his knees. My mother built a fund to pay back the people we hurt. He turned it into a channel to wash the money we hurt them with. He used her name on the letterhead. He used her signature block." Tara spoke from the chair for the first time. 22 payments with no diagnosis. Who were they? Ji-hoon answered without turning around. "A yard foreman crushed in 2011. 2 families in Flushing whose building we bought out. A driver's widow in Union City who still gets a check every March and has never met anyone from this company." He rested one hand on the lid. "She wrote them by hand, and then she wrote in the margin why the lawyers were wrong. You could have handed it to a prosecutor. He was already dead when I finished reading. So the only thing left to indict was her name." He looked at the box, not at her. Every family we paid dialysis for would have read that the woman who signed their letter ran a laundry. I decided I would put the money back instead. Naomi kept her voice flat. "Prove it." He pulled a bound tab out of the box and set it face down, which he had learned. She turned it over herself. 5 years and 4 months of transfers, quarterly, out of the operating companies with trucks and payrolls and union drivers, into Raven Bridge, 28,400,000 against 41.3 taken. "You were paying it back in installments," she said. "I was paying it back in silence. Those are different crimes." She underlined the last quarterly entry. It had stopped 14 months ago. Why did it stop? Because the account stopped accepting deposits, Ji-hoon said. My cousin had already begun closing it. He laid out the rest in the order the paper made it. Whitfield's office had produced the file copy of the memo overnight. The same typed line, the same date. The sender's name intact at the bottom, because a lawyer's duplicate is a lawyer's duplicate. P. Song-ho, CFO. The February document retention policy that scheduled the Cliffside Park server for destruction carried the same signature, notarized, with the 8-character credential typed under the line, and the Cliffside Park laundry lease, the one with 3 employees and a real cash register, was signed by the same man who organized Hanwuri Administrative Services LLC 8 months ago in Delaware. Daniel had his laptop open now and was typing with his shoulders up around his ears. There's one more, Ji-hoon said. He took out a phone carrier statement. Your source's number was one of 6 handsets bought in a single transaction 14 months ago. Billed to Hanrim Transport Services. Naomi read the line twice. My source worked for you. Your source was paid by my cousin to sound like he worked for me. He set the statement down. He was never in danger. He was a voice on a phone that got switched off when the envelope reached the vendor. Naomi put the marker down on the sill and stood, both hands on the rail, and Tara came half out of the chair and then held. Say the shape of it, Naomi said. Out loud, all of it. Ji-hoon said it plainly. Seong-ho had reopened 4 dormant shells and drained 41 million while the fund was dying. He needed the theft never to be counted, and he needed the man whose signature was on the entities gone before the vote. So he had a key to a box no auditor knows exists, and he built documents out of it. A real folio number, a real signature photographed off a real page, 15 real words in a dead woman's handwriting, and he mailed them to the one reporter who had already found the pipe. He wanted them printed, Naomi said. He wanted them printed and then broken. A federal file opens on me. The forgeries collapse in 6 weeks, and the story with them. I am under indictment, you are finished, the fund is dissolved, and there is nobody left who can read a folio mark. And he paid Hale to run me early. He paid a man to make sure the fuse was short. Naomi sat back down because her legs told her to. She looked at the marker line on the glass, the death date, the second paragraph of a charter nobody had read in 9 years. I wasn't wrong, she said. You were walked, Ji-hoon said. You got close to the right thing, and someone put a lamp in the wrong window. She held her hand out. He took the folded page from the inside pocket, refolded, flattened, a notarized custody letter from Whitfield clipped to it, naming the drawer, the date, the hour he removed it, and put it in her palm without setting it on the table first. Term 4, he said. Late, she said. And she took it. The vote was called for 11 the next morning in a boardroom on the 4th floor of a Guryong property in Atlantic City. Ramirez signed her out at 6 with a wheelchair she refused at the door, a pass valid until 9 that night, and a printed instruction to be back for a 7 a.m. infusion. Tara came off shift and got in the car anyway. Naomi wore navy, the suit that still fit, gold hoops, the oxblood bag on her knees with the folio index inside it. Song-ho opened before the chair could finish the agenda. He had a slim leather portfolio, and he used it well. He read 2 lines of the editor's note aloud to the room, put it down, and spread 41 black and white photographs across the table like a hand of cards. This is the reporter, he said, a sick woman with a discredited byline, who followed the chairman for 11 weeks with a long lens. Her own newspaper has withdrawn her. 2 lawyers looked away. One director picked up a photograph and turned it over. Naomi stood. Her hands were steady because she had eaten at 5, and because Tara had put a chair behind her without asking. Those were left on a conference table in Manhattan 11 days ago, she said, by me. I'd like the record to show how they got to New Jersey. Sung-ho's hand moved half an inch toward the portfolio. She started with folio marks, because a room like that respects a number it cannot look up. She read 0417B09 off her index and asked the auditors at the end of the table to write it down. She gave them the pledge letter of October 2009, $200,000, a dialysis program in Queens. She gave them the photographic lift of the signature and the 15 words taken out of a margin note in the founder's hand. Whoever built the packet mailed to me had the original in their hands, she said. 3 living people hold a key. A director asked, in the tone of a man buying time, whether a folio mark could be verified by anyone outside the family. By your auditors, this afternoon, Naomi said. The stamp is on the back of 1,100 grant letters in the fund's own file room. Match the corner codes to the box and tell the room how many people could have known the format. She named the 11 wire authorizations and the 8-character credential on all 11. She named the counter-signature block on the 3rd contract and read the title printed under it. She named the February retention policy and the server it would have burned last Thursday. She named Hanwari Administrative Services LLC and the Cliffside Park lease and the man who signed both. Then she said $240,000, Hanrim Transport Services, to Doyle Strategic Communications LLC, Greenwich, Connecticut, Purpose Advisory. She said, Catherine Doyle Hale. She said the settlement date, and the date 2 days later when a publication schedule was moved forward 9 days at 11:20 p.m. under the executive editor's login, 15 days before the documents existed in that building. Daniel stood up in the hallway doorway with a laptop balanced on his forearm. The audit row is time-stamped and notarized, Naomi said. It's going live in 4 minutes. The chair called for the count anyway. Seong-ho said the word motion and got 1 syllable of it out. Ji-hoon interrupted the count. He walked in from the service door with 2 boxes and a Guryong lawyer behind him carrying a 3rd, and he put a bound audit in front of every director, both auditors, and the 2 federal men who had been sitting at the end of the table since 10:40 without introducing themselves. Everything the reporter said is in Section 1, he said. Section 2 is my father. Section 3 is me. A director started to object about counsel. Section 3 is my own confession, Ji-hoon said. I have known since I was 27 that this company laundered through my mother's charity. I concealed it. I repaid $28,400,000 out of my own operating revenue and told no one, which is not restitution, it is bookkeeping. The room made no sound worth writing down. He set his signet ring on the table, face up, and slid it to the chair. I resign control of the health and transport arms, as of this minute. The health arm goes to an independent board. The auditors will name it, not me. Seong-ho said his cousin's name twice, once quietly, and once not. Nobody voted with him. His 2 allies on the board asked for a recess and used it to leave. By 12:20, the Fort Lee accounts were frozen down to the last 2, by the same signature that froze Belcourt and Ashmount, and the federal men had Whitfield's custody letters and Daniel's dated envelope and Tara's photographs of a driver's license logged into a hospital visitor system on 11 separate days. Sung-ho walked out between his lawyers. He walked out on his own feet, which was the last term of a deal that had already been broken, and Naomi watched him go all the way to the elevator to be sure of it. Daniel published from the hallway carpet at 12:31, 3,000 words under his own byline and hers. The paper removed Victor Hale by Friday. The state opened a file on Doyle Strategic Communications the following week, and Catherine Doyle Hale's lawyer stopped returning calls by the end of the month. The retraction was withdrawn, the editor's note replaced with a correction naming its author, and Naomi's archive was unflagged, 6 years and 400 bylines, in a single line of code that took someone 11 seconds. The termination for cause was reversed. She cashed the severance and never wrote the paper another word. Raven Bridge survived. 11 million stayed where the charter put it, and the second paragraph, the one about restitution without publicity, was read aloud at the first meeting of the new board. Naomi finished Phase 1 on a Wednesday at 7 a.m. and the two after it at 10-day spacing, and her counts came up on the third panel. She took the money from a small foundation grant and rented 2 rooms above a locksmith on 29th Street. 3 people, her, Daniel, and a nurse-turned-analyst who could read a claims file the way Tara read a chart. They audit health charities, nothing else. Months later, she went back to the 14th floor for a follow-up, gown, ID band, IV in the left hand again, and Tara put her in 1412 on purpose. The blind was up. Behind the corridor glass, a man in a black overcoat set down a paper bag of something warm and raised his phone, screen toward her. "May I come in?" Naomi looked at the door. She let him stand there long enough to learn what it costs. Then she smiled and typed, "Now you may."
If the story stayed with you even after the screen went dark, know this, it doesn't end here. Our private community is the extension of this channel. Every story ad-free. No interruptions. No breaks in the atmosphere. Bonus scenes and extra chapters the public version doesn't show. And for the inner circle, one of our 3 tiers, 1 brand new exclusive full-length story every month. Plus the sensual chapters reserved only for the chair you're sitting in. 3 doors in. Scan the QR code on your screen, tap the link in the pinned comment, or follow the link in the description below. Your name belongs on the next page.
If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever been called a liar about a truth you proved? Have you fought for it while your body failed? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about truth, silence, and redemption, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.